Hi, I'm Quicke. We farm in Kulin. I farm here with my wife Trudi and my daughter Makuslo. We've got a mixed farm here. We do a bit of cropping and half crop, half sheep. That's what we've been up to. We're on 1,500 hectares here, or just a little bit over. Grandad came here on the original farm, which is just east of we are right now, in the 1920s. I left school in 1979 and came home, and we only had 2,000 acres when we started. So we've built it up to the 1,500 hectares that we've got now. Went shearing for 14 years, and one of the guys I went to school with, he actually got me into the oil mallee industry. The rainfall's supposed to be around 350 millimetres, that's the average, or 12 inches for the older people. But we haven't had that in the last few years. It's been very dry. Last year we only had 251 millimetres over the whole lot, and 31 of that actually fell in January, which is not, well, it puts a little bit of subsoil moisture in the ground, and a bit of runoff in dams, but it's not much point for, not that helpful for growing a crop. And this year, unfortunately, up until now, we've only had 101 millimetres, so we're a long way behind where we'd like to be, so our crops aren't looking too good, and the pasture's very dry at this time of the year. But getting back to the trees, we first started planting a few on fence lines and stuff like that in about 95 or 96, and then we've had a little bit of trouble with salt on some crabhole country on what we call the lower lying stuff. So we decided to have a real go and plant a lot of trees to see if that'd make a difference, and we actually put 17,000 in one paddock where we started in 1997. There was 100 hectares down there, and we worked on putting 10% into each paddock that we've done, and we've been doing it ever since. And I think now we've got just over 200,000 trees in over, I think this year is half the farm. So yeah, and it's made a big difference. On the first paddock where we started, there was salt scolds right through the paddock, especially in the crabhole country, and now there's only one left. But if we hadn't planted trees where we started, I don't think we'd be farming it as we are still today. So I think they're of huge benefit for us. We've got some trials going on down there with cropping trials to see how much the tree robs, because obviously they're over 10 years old now. Well, they're nearly 12 years old, 13 years old this year. So we've done some deep ripping alongside trees that have been coppiced to see what the growth of the crop is. And yeah, unfortunately the crop's not going to be very good, so the trial will probably fail. DEC are doing trials on the trees themselves, trying to find out when the best time to coppice and what the regrowth results are. And I think we're one of 17 sites that they're doing that over the state. We've done different plans across the farm. We've done 2 metre spacings with trees at 2 metres apart. Most of the trees are planted at 2 metres apart. We've got 2 rows of trees, we've got 3 rows of trees, we've got 4 rows of trees. We've got paddocks where we put all those combinations together to see what might be the best way or the best results. But with your machinery too, you've got to work out your row spacings. So I think the best one that we've got is 63 metres away from the tree, or an area between the tree lines, and our machinery goes up and down there either 3 times for the boom, 6 times for the seeding equipment, and 6 times for the harvester, because it's the same width as the seeder, which is good. We've tried a little bit wider, up to 84 metres, but I don't like that. I reckon the wind protection is not as good, so I think everything we do now will be 60 odd metres apart. It's always good to have an access point for your machinery when you've got a big paddock, like this paddock behind us here was 110 hectares, and we've gone with the 10% here, and what we've done, we've left an access track as wide as a boom spray across the middle of the paddock, and always at each end of the paddock, so that you've got plenty of room to turn around. And just a couple of other things, if you when you establish the tree, we always pre-rip when it's a little bit drier, which shatters the ground, and always make sure you put we put a bit of simazine and Roundup out to get rid of any grass that's growing, and it has a little bit of residual effect. And then we get good weed control, because if the first thing that happens usually when you do a deep rip, the cape weed loves it, and that competes with the new tree that you put in. So it's a good idea to pre-rip, spray it out, and then plant your tree, and you know, leave those access points in a big paddock, and we use them to shift machinery from paddock to paddock. And also the sheep, you can chase them up there quite easily too. And if you have a fire, you can get out, because once the trees are quite big, you can't drive through them obviously, and hopefully you don't have a fire. We bought this farm down here in 1998. There was 13 paddocks across the whole farm when we got here, and quite a few of the fences weren't in very good order. So we hopped down here and reshaped it all. There's a major creek and a major water line, and that floods quite badly, especially in those flood events that we've had. So we re-fenced the creek completely, and even though we didn't put oil mallees, we put mixed trees in here to try and reclaim quite a bit of the creek. And there's saltbush and all sorts of stuff growing in here, wattles and some of Angus dissimers, I think. I don't like them, I call them Angus disappointments, because the sheep eat them. We fenced it all off, and it's quite good here now. There wasn't hardly a tree left in here after the floods, and because it was being grazed as well when we bought it, yeah, it was pretty awful. But now it looks quite good, and we've actually done 2 other paddocks under the oil mallee, so we've only got 4 paddocks here now instead of the 13 original ones that were there, because and they all went across the creek, so they were, you know, quite awkward to work. And some of the fences, well, we just got rid of all of those, pushed them all up. So yeah, made it a lot easier farm to work, and now we put the mallees here, and it looks a hell of a lot better than it did when we got here. And yeah, we're quite pleased with the way it's come up actually. So one of the main reasons I went into it was to try and save the ground from the salinity. It makes the farm look a lot better. The wind protection's phenomenal when the trees get up, you know, 4 or 5 years old. The sheep love it. You put them in a paddock where there's no trees, and they, on a day like today, they'll go and crowd in a corner where there is some protection. But if you see them in a paddock where there's lots of trees, they just walk around, you know, just quite happily about. Hopefully one day they'll be a renewable resource. We've seen harvesters that have been made that will handle trees that we've got in the first paddock we did there. Whether the government do it or a private enterprise comes in and says, right, we want all your trees, Norm, we're going to wood chip them, we're going to take them off farm and put them into a machine and make power, and then they'll grow again once they've been harvested, so that can just go on and on and on. The plant in Narrogin did work. There was enough trees to run that 24 hours a day within 100 kilometres of Narrogin, but they've shut it down because it was a trial plant. If I can get paid to have the trees for that industry, well, that's a bonus. But at the moment, we're not making any money out of it. And we've been lucky enough to get funding from different sources that the government have put up. Otherwise, it'd be a fairly big cost on your own